Okay, everyone, let's grab our seats. It's officially 8:30 p.m. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome home, everybody. Let's settle in here. First off, we'd like to, I don't know if you guys are familiar with our YouTube channel. We're going to give a shout out to Jason S. over in New Jersey, who handles all that for us. And like I explained to you guys, we have over 300,000 views now. So this message is getting carried on and on and on. It's a very powerful group and a powerful message that gets shared here. Another thing that we have commitment to the H&I. Look us up on that, see us after the meeting. Every Sunday night we're up there at the treatment center. There's no requirements. Come out with us if you'd like to get involved with that. And if you like a commitment or anything like that, we have tons of them here. There's a lot of working parts to this meeting, and I'd like to sit here and be able to articulate and share every single person that has something to do with this group, but there's so many behind the scenes that work so hard. And that's pretty much universal through AA and all the meetings you go to. Anyway, with that, we got the world's best chairman. Let's welcome Nick up here. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Good evening. Welcome home. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Nick, and I am an alcoholic. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. The food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m., followed by our speaker at 8:30. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 right here. Please come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others, through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town who would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Yes, sir.
My name is John, and I'm an alcoholic. This is my first time at this meeting.
Welcome, John. Glad you're here. Yes.
Hi, I'm Leah, I'm an alcoholic. It's my first time at this meeting.
Welcome. Yes, sir. Hey, Chris. Welcome.
Hi, I'm an alcoholic named Tim, basically from Staten Island, New York.
All right. Welcome. Welcome, Tim. And welcome to everybody. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Our sister group is a big book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30 just up the street at the Salem Church, 186 East Court Street. Coffee is on at 6:15. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD Donations. All CDs are available free of charge. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and our Facebook group. Subscribe and share. You can find our speakers there, join our Facebook page, and keep informed and share upcoming events and meetings. And now with that, I have Michelle to come up and read the Just for Today Prayer of Recovery.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle and I'm an alcoholic. Just for today, prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can. I will dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. I'd like to introduce Steve to come up and read the preamble.
Steve, I'm an alcoholic. Good evening, this is the preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And next up, we have JJ with the 12 steps.
My name is JJ. I'm an alcoholic. These are the 12 steps of recovery. First, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Second, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Third, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Fourth, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Fifth, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Sixth, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Seventh, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Eighth, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Ninth, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, we promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. With that, Nick's going to come up and introduce our speaker.
The seventh tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we like to pass the baskets. We have no dues or fees. We do have expenses, and this group provides many services. Your donations cover food, rent, big books, CDs, events, and workshops. We do have our hoodies back there if anyone is interested, and they are free with a $20 donation. Also, if anyone wants to make a donation, I have a Venmo. We can also donate to that if you don't have cash. That's available also. Just see me after the meeting. There is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now, to introduce the speaker, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. Today we have Meredith E. from Maryland, the Main Street Big Book Group.
Can everybody hear me? All right. Hi, I'm Meredith and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is December 1st, 2019. My home group is Main Street Big Book. It is in Delaware. I grew up in Elkton, so it's like down in that area, like the line is so close together. So I drove up from Delaware tonight, and I'm very honored to be here, and I'm very grateful to the program at Alcoholics Anonymous. If you felt the way I felt and drank the way I drank, my life is completely recreated due to the fact that I, took simple suggestions and I remained willing, and today I have a relationship with God. Within my experience is a reliance on God, and I had to go through my own experience to learn what that is and what that means. And just a heads up, my face might turn red because I get really passionate talking about this stuff. I'm very grateful for this program and the relationship I have with God. I talk with my hands a lot too. And I'm not going to harp too much on like a war story or like my childhood, but I do like to talk about my childhood a little bit and just like my background. I think it's pretty cool. In AA, everyone has a different background and experience. At the end of the day, we have one problem and there's one solution. And I definitely had that one problem, and I learned what that solution was. And I, just to kind of dive in, I'm the oldest of a brother and two sisters. Grew up with a mom and a dad, average household. We were that family that went to church every Sunday and Wednesday night. It wasn't anything super religious. I actually loved going to church as a child. I enjoyed Sunday school. I did vacation Bible school, all that stuff. And I would say like there was definitely like the religious aspect of it, kind of like there's heaven, hell, you're a sinner. I thought I was going to like go to this place called hell. And I had this fear too, like, learning the Bible about like this. And I share this because this is like a fear I really had, and I think it blocked me for a long time. In church I learned about, it's the rapture, like the end of times. And I really thought as a child, like the rapture, like God's going to come back and kidnap everybody into the sky. And that was a real fear that was instilled in me for so long. So that developed and progressed to like this fear of God, like, he's just judging me. And, I'm just like, I'm not good enough. And it's like God's here and I'm here and I can never seem to get up to him. And, even though I enjoyed church and that whole experience, the concept I have of God just wasn't working for me. And I'm grateful, for going to church when I was a kid, because it did have like an anchor somewhere inside me. It was just blocked for a long time. And my mom, she would share about spiritual experiences she had that always, resonated with me as well. But regardless, no matter what my experience was, it's not, what makes me an alcoholic necessarily. I think a lot of households, depending, but there's a lot of fighting and chaos and turmoil. And we went to church for so long, and then it's I just noticed when it's God's not really at the center of the household. My parents, they always fought, and they fought really bad to a point where my senior year, they divorced. My brother was getting in trouble, nothing to do with alcohol or drugs, just casual teenage trouble, and just a lot of other chaos in the house. And I don't have a coping mechanism or a solution to that, just shoving it down like everything's okay. And I would say throughout high school, as I'm growing up, I just have so much anger. I'm very angry and I'm very sad, and I don't know what to do with it except just suppress it down. And some people, a lot of people I hear in meetings in AA, they talk about the first time they drank or whatever it might be, they felt relief. And I guess, that's kind of my experience, but I feel even when it's I'm intoxicated or not, I was just so sad. I was so lost and I was so angry. It doesn't matter if I'm intoxicated or not. If I'm blacked out, obviously I'm not even here to know. But it's as soon as I come to, it's I'm so empty on the inside. And I'm very miserable, and looking back, it's I had no love for myself. I had no self-respect for myself. And for me, this disease, which I'll get into, was very progressive for me. And I would say about senior year of high school, is when things really started taking off for me. That anger and that sadness, I start skipping school a lot. I'm just so angry. I'm trying to cause fights with people, just chaos on my end. And, just starting to dabble with alcohol and, other forms of alcohol as well. And like I said, this disease is very progressive for me. And what I mean by that, within a year, I get from point A to point B. And I don't even realize there's something abnormal about it. And, when I graduated high school, I had a lot of friends that had goals and aspirations to go to college and get a career. That's not my experience. I think to myself, I'm free and I can do whatever I want. And to me, that's partying. And my partying, looking back, it's when you first come out of high school, a lot of people are drinking, and doing whatever a certain way. But it's theirs ends very quickly and mine continues on for the next 6 years. And other forms of alcohol are a big part of my story, because it's just I'm that real alcoholic. It's I always got to hit the next mark, and the next mark. And, coming out of high school, I have jobs, and I can't keep jobs for about 6 or 7 years. I just can't keep a job, can't have a car, I have nothing physical to my name, and I just get more empty and more empty on the inside. And, I burn bridges left and right. All I do is cause harm. The big book talks about the tornado, and that's definitely all I did. If I have any type of positive conversation with anyone, it's looking back, I don't even know if it's really positive, It's I'm just so full of delusion. I don't bring much to the table at all. And so 6 years, just drank and drugged the way I did, and it gets me to one point, and there's certain bullet points I like to talk about in my alcoholic career, I call it, just because it shows where this disease takes me, and doesn't matter what harm I'm causing people, I don't care. I think it was 2016, I had a near-death experience, and I ended up in the hospital, and I didn't know what happened. I just woke up in the hospital with the EKG on my head. I had all these tubes in me. I can't talk. I have to write on a piece of paper to my mom if I'm dying. And just the look on her face, it's it should have said so much, but it's I don't care. And the first thing I asked her is if she bought me this car. And it was some car I found that was super cheap. Because mind you, I had no money. So I asked my mom if she bought me this car, and she's no, I actually got that car for your little sister. My little sister who gets good grades and is a good kid. And I just remember screaming at my parents in this hospital bed, this is what it takes for you to show your love for me. And it's that's how broken I am, and I don't even know it. I'm sitting in a hospital in a gown, literally don't know what happened. I was in a coma for 3 days. I come out of the coma, I have tubes on me and a catheter on me, and that's the first thing I think about. And I don't see anything wrong with this at all. And of course I'm lying to the hospital oh, this is all a mistake, a misunderstanding. They're well, you got to go to the mental hospital for however long, because you can't go out in the world. I'm all right, whatever. So I go to like this mental hospital, and I was only in there like a week and a half, and I just remember thinking like, I got to get out of here. I have to get out of here, and I'll do whatever it takes. And I probably looked like a psycho. I was like trying to act all happy and like positive, and I just remember the doctor telling me, he's like, well, I think you have a mix of anxiety and depression, so I'm going to give you this medicine, and I think that's your problem. I'm like, all right, cool, like I'm going to give this a try. And I probably took it for like a week, and I'm like, and this doesn't work, and I'm just doing exactly what I want to do. And that was probably about 2016, and like things just keep progressing. And literally this disease, things just get worse and worse and worse. And it ends up where it's like, man, I was just so empty on the inside. It's like I have nothing going on in my life, and I don't care because I don't even know what other way there is to live. And it was about 2019 we'll get to. So we're fast forwarding now. Meredith has nothing. I'm literally like so isolated, no relationship, no car, no job, like literally nothing. The only clothes I have are clothes that I stole from the mall. Like, I just have nothing going on. And you think that would make you broken enough, but it's like, it didn't, Like, it just goes to show, like, nothing can fix me. But God started working then because my now fiance then, I guess, like, started to become boyfriend. His name's Steven. So I knew Steven a few years prior. He lived just like I lived. And we like Facebook messaged, and we hung out one time. And I just think it's cool how no human can get me sober, but God really works through his kids, because if God hadn't worked through Stephen the way he did, I wouldn't be here. And like he was probably about a year and a half sober. And we hung out like one time, it was like our first date. And I love how in the big book it talks about like the starry-eyed look, and he had that. And he wasn't just some meeting attender. Like he's talking to me about inventory and a relationship with God, making amends with people, rehab. And I'm just like, what is this? But it's so attractive because it's like, I am definitely not sober. I've been sober for 6 years. And here is a person that drank just like I did. And he's sober. And he's looking me dead in my eyes, telling me exactly what he did. And it just blew my mind. Because I was like, this seems skeptical to me. It's so foreign to me what true sobriety is. And he was just like, we hung out for barely a month, and it's just crazy how I go from someone who lives how I want to live, because I only hang out with people that do what I do. If you don't do what I do, you're not cool enough. So it's like, literally, and like what I'm doing is so like, it's shameful. So I can only hang around people who do what I do. And now I'm starting to sneak it. It's like 3 a.m. He's living at his mom's house. Granted, he went to rehab in Florida, and now he's like living at his mom's, getting on his feet. I'm sneaking out of his mom's house at 3 a.m. to get what I need, coming back, and he's just like, and we only hung out for like 3.5 weeks. And the next day he sat me down, and like, granted, I've had people be like, yeah, like, I'm talking to other people that do what I do, like other alcoholics. I'm like, I don't know what to do to get sober. And they're like, oh, well, you should try this or try that. No one ever said like exactly what to do, nothing against them. But he looked me in my eye and he's like, I suggest just first of all, you go to a 30-day treatment. And I'm like, whoa. Sounds like a big thing to do. Now, for that whole time I was out there, I thought what'll fix me is one day when I go to detox or rehab. That's big. If I do that, that'll fix me. So when he tells me that, like, granted he was slipping in, like, coming to AA and everything. And I was like, yeah, like, I'll go next week. I have a couple of things I need to get done. He's like, you should have gone years ago. And, bless my dad's heart, because I called him and my mom, and they knew, like, something was up for however long. But, they don't know how to approach me about this. It's like, do we do an intervention? There's been clear signs up till now. There's something going on with Meredith, and I think I have such a good show on that no one knows what's going on with me. I weigh like 80 pounds, like you can tell, it's very obvious. And I called my parents, and my dad like pulled out a lot of his savings, and he sent me to a nice rehab down in Annapolis, Maryland. And on the way to rehab, like this is my first time going to rehab, and my dad, he got to see what his daughter has turned into, and that's like literally a demon. I'm like in the car, we're on 95, and I'm like trying to jump out of his car. He's like holding my shirt, trying to keep me in the car. It's very scary. It's like I'm literally like a wild animal. I don't know what I signed up for, and I get there, and I am going through withdrawal so bad, like detox so bad. And I get in there, and I'm going through like intake, and I'm like trying to talk to the woman who's doing my intake. I'm like, I don't feel good, and she's like, it's okay. Like I've been there, and it's like, the book talks about like when your mind's befogged, and it's like my mind was super befogged. So it's like I can't hear anything. I just literally need what I need because I do not feel okay right now. And I'm very grateful for this rehab. They brought in AA speakers. They took us to AA meetings. It was one of those nice rehabs. Like, we did horseback riding and like cooking class. And that stuff's a nice distraction for a little bit, but if you suffer what I suffer from, it's going to fail you. It was nice for what it was, but the whole time, like, I just wanted to leave there. And, looking back, like, it was pretty, it's pretty sad. Like, looking back, I was, like, about 2 weeks into rehab. And this rehab, like, gave me, like, no medication. Like, I am, like, stone cold sober. And I'm sitting in my room, and looking back, I know what it was. It's like, I can't sit by myself. If you have the guilt and shame you do, and you're just blocked like I am, like, yeah, you can't sit by yourself. What is quiet? What is peace? And I remember I was like, I got to get out of here. And I'm like trying to, like, in my mind, plan how to get out of rehab. I got an AMA. I got to get 2.5 hours back home. Like, how am I going to do that? I'm in the middle of nowhere. I have a Visa gift card with $7 on it that my dad gave me. And it's like, and I think I'm going to get out of here. And that's when it's just like, God was constantly working, and it's like, even though I couldn't see it and I wouldn't let him in, it's like he was, because I stuck out 30-day treatment. And I was so happy to get out of there the day I got out of there. And, they tried the whole thing, like, all right, like, let's set up a plan for when you get out of rehab. And, I was definitely willing. So I was like, all right, I'll do the IOP, the relapse prevention packets, triggers, people's, places, things. And I'll do the recovery house. And I was like, I'll do whatever. And, granted, I did do that, and I was in a recovery house for about a week and a half. Meredith can't do blackouts because you can't tell me rules and what I can do. So I was like, all right, well, I can't go to the gym. I'm moving in with my boyfriend, and they're like, all right, have fun. And I moved in with my boyfriend, and I was literally at his house probably 2 or 3 days, and people's, places, and things, you just learn. It's like, Meredith, like, I am the problem. I go where I go. And I almost died. I had another near-death experience. And it's just crazy because none of that stuff will stop me. It doesn't matter what experiences come my way or obstacles. It's just like, and I'll get into like what I suffer from, but what I suffer from, that stuff does not matter. And I'm sitting in a hospital with like no shoes on. My car got totaled. I got a DUI now. And they, it's just, I remember sitting in this hospital room, and I remember like thinking to myself, and this like, definitely wasn't me saying it, but it was God. He was like, I was just like, I'm going to try AA. I just remember like saying it to Stephen. And so it was the next day I went to, there's a clubhouse up my way called Westminster, and I went in there. I don't even know what I said. I just think it was something along the lines of, I'm Meredith, and I was died yesterday. I need help. And Jen, my sponsor, approached me, and she was like, do you want someone to take you through the steps? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, so eager, so willing. And I remember telling her, like, I'm too scared to like try anything. I just don't want to like die. And I just remember it always stuck with me. She's like, fear doesn't stop us. And I was like, what does that mean? And then like the next day I'm at the tow yard and I'm getting my car, and the same thing that almost killed me, I'm trying to do 24 hours later. And it's just like, that's what that means. Like, fear does not stop me. And I just remember like getting to a breaking point because I still had other ideas. Like, all right, well, if I can't do this, I'll do this form of alcoholism, or this form of alcohol, or this form of alcohol, or this form of alcohol. And it all ended up the same result. And for me, like, everything's so fast. Like, I could, drink for a day, and it's like, I'm blacked out right away. And it's just like, it's insane. Like, I severely suffer from this disease. And I got to a point where it's like, all right, like I said, a human can't get me sober, but I kept telling myself, like, I'm going to do this for the relationship. I'm going to do this for the relationship. And, I just, something in me was willing enough to continue to go through the steps. And I'm very grateful for that, because if I didn't have that willingness, I wouldn't have had a spiritual awakening. And I can say I have had an awakening because, I'm here. My experience shows that death is literally at the door for me. I only went to rehab once, that's my experience, but I know, like, if I didn't remain willing, I would not be here physically. And coming out of rehab and having that near-death experience, I'm only here by, like, 20 seconds, and that's what, like, the police officer told me. And, it's just to this day, I'm grateful for that experience because I can help other girls now with it, but back then it's like, it's just crazy how it's just like that happens, and it's like, oh, just another day. And how that's like, that insanity just doesn't stop me. And I want to dive into like what the solution is now. Like I said, everything was foreign to me. I don't understand what sobriety is. I thought if I put this down and just do this, and I have a 9-to-5 job, that's sobriety. That's normal living. And it's like, all right, Meredith, well then if that's the case, then why for 6-7 years could you not get to that point? I could never get a grip on anything. And thank goodness for the big book, and Bill suffered when I suffer from, because he wrote literally, it has nothing to do with willpower. That literally ceased to exist with me. And, step one, it's like, okay, when I come in, like, I understand, like, I can't drink or anything successfully. It's the same result with every form of alcohol I've tried. Literally the same thing. So it's like, okay, I understand that. But it's like something in my brain is just like, well, maybe you were just like young and dumb and you needed rehab once. That might be some people's experience, but that's not my experience. Why do I come out of rehab and I'm back to where I'm at? So for me, step one, like that goes really deep. I'm powerless and my life's unmanageable. And I love the doctor's opinion in the big book, and I love there's a solution because it touches base exactly what I suffer from. And I think it's pretty cool how a doctor wrote, like in his own words, like talking about like the allergy. And, I had this mental obsession for drugs and alcohol. And I come in with a lot of ideas that makes me alcoholic. Well, I have a lot of fear and anxiety, and I'm insecure, and this, and that. And it's like, what makes me the alcoholic? Once I pick up, I can't stop. And when I put it down, I can't stop thinking about it. And that mental obsession, that I thought would never be gone. Like, it's just crazy. Like, that is like, when I put it down, that mental obsession, that is on me to the point I'm crawling out of my skin. Literally, I feel like I'm crawling out of my skin. And I like how the doctor's opinion explains I have an allergy. When I put it in my body, I have this abnormal reaction. That's what makes me different from a non-alcoholic. And my parents and my siblings, they don't suffer what I suffer from. Their experiences, they can drink however they want and put it down and move on with life. I pick it up, put it down. It's like my brain's like, I need more of that and more of that. So step one, it's like I have an abnormal reaction to drugs and alcohol. It's like an allergy because I have an abnormal reaction. And when I put it down, I have this mental obsession on me. And I like the analogy I've heard from a speaker. It's like you tie me up to a tree for 30 days, right? You can compare that to rehab. If nothing has changed internally inside me, you untie me from that tree, I'm going to go back right to where I was. And that's why I like there's a solution that follows up with, all right, you got like the social drinker, moderate drinker, you got the hard drinker, you got the real alcoholic. And every time I read that real alcoholic part, it always like just stabs me right in the gut. 'Cause it's like, I know that's what I am. I go through the checklist of the hard drinker. And what that pretty much is like, all right, you have like the warning of a doctor. Well, I've had near-death experiences, change of environment. I've been in rehab, and even before AA, I didn't really have a home, so my home's always changing, falling in love. Some people get a house. I've had that stuff happen to me, and I still am not okay on the inside, and I still want what I want. And with the hard drinker, it's like some people can put down and move on with their life, and like I said, that's not my experience. So I'll always say, like, I'm the real alcoholic. I didn't have kids in my experience, but if I did, they'd just be another obstacle too. Anything is an obstacle. Family, loved ones, jobs, and that's just my experience. That might not be everyone's experience. I've worked with some girls, it's like that's not their experience, and they may not suffer what I suffer from, and that's okay. AA is pretty open to anyone who just has a desire to stop drinking. And I love our traditions, and I'll get more into that. But, step one, it's like, I always sum it up, like, once you put it down, how do you feel, and how are you thinking, and how's your life looking? I also like to say, like, can you successfully, drink or use any form of alcohol at all? Like, I know I can. Like, my experience has shown for years, and coming out of rehab, I've fallen in love. It's like all that stuff, and it's pretty cool when you start asking other girls, like, and now my experience now, like, where they're at with that, and it's like seeing them get honest. No one can make you get honest with your own step one. I have to get honest with that, and I tell the other girls, I'm like, I can't make you get honest with this. Only you know. And then step two, I like how it's worded, came to believe. Because, I came in here with, like, kind of more so like the church religious, like, vision of God, and nothing against, like, religion, just it was not working for me. Because if it was, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And I'm so grateful for these steps because in my experience, it wasn't snap of a finger. I believed in this physical man in the sky. It is a feeling. I was doing step work with a girl earlier, and I was like, it's not going to be a physical imagination, physical figment of your imagination. I was like, it is a feeling. When I can say I started to believe, because when I first came to AA, I see like the 12 steps on the walls, and it's overwhelming, and it seems like, how could this be real? Because this is like free. It doesn't make any sense to me. And, the came to believe happened for me when I had the first 24 hours without thinking about a drink or a drug. And that blew my mind because for 7 years straight, 24/7, that's all I could think about, and that's all I could do. And I couldn't stop. And, step three is like made that decision, that initial decision, God, here, take my will because it is not working. And I remember like I was trying to say the third step prayer in my own words. I'm like, I think I'm surrendering. I hope I'm surrendering. And, I wasn't really surrendering. It's like when I said it full-heartedly and I made that decision, like, okay, my life is in shambles and nothing is working and I don't want to die. That's literally how desperate I was. And I just remember like being on the bed and I just said it full-heartedly. And I love Bill's version of a third step prayer on page 13. It's talking about like, God, remove me root and branch, and I haven't had, a drink since. And that is my experience. And that's when I started to believe. I was like, all right, 24 hours. I remember it was like the first day and I was like, I didn't think about drinking or anything today. And that just blew my mind. And that's when it's like, all right, I'm starting to come to believe there's something bigger than me. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to keep moving forward. And I'm going to harp on, inventory, because that is like, that's what really gets my gears going. Some people, a lot of girls I take through the work, they're very, scared or like this and that with inventory. I just wanted to be free and I was so willing. And when I wrote my inventory, I wrote it pretty jacked up. I wrote it like a diary. It was like paragraphs of like, what people did wrong to me. And what inventory to me now today, like looking at it, because I continue to keep up my inventory, is if I'm willing to face myself. And if I'm not willing to face myself and get honest with the things I've done and who I am, then I'm never going to get anywhere. And I like to say my mistakes, not my parts. It's not about anyone ever. And if I'm still saying they have a part, I'll never get entirely free. And when I had a very profound experience of drinking and, using other forms of alcohol. And then I had a very profound experience with inventory. And I remember like just going through 3 resentments, and it was the one with my mom and her not buying me a car. And, just having my sponsor break that down to me, it's like I just remember like feeling like something snap in my brain. And it's like all of a sudden I just woke up to how selfish I was. And, it's like the first spiritual experience I had was just like seeing how selfish I was. And I have been my entire life. Also, inventory goes to show the delusion I've been living in for the past pretty much my entire life. And that delusion is what will kill me. It's what keeps me asleep. It's what keeps me blocked. And I'm very grateful for inventory to help me look at life differently. And also it talks about, in the doctor's opinion, I have to have this psychic change. So I go through the steps, I wake up with a spiritual awakening, but I have to have that psychic change. That is the change in my perspective, and that is what's jacked up. My perspective is just so clouded and blocked on life. And when I start doing inventory, it really brings to the surface, like, okay, I'm facing the music, I'm facing who I am, I see how selfish I am. And, then I go home, and when I do my 6 and 7, that's just asking God to remove this old, like all this blockage, just pretty much how I describe it, remove this blockage from me. And I'm going to harp on this next step for a while, because I feel like this is where a lot of people, especially with me taking girls through the work, I see them fall off. But if I'm doing inventory, and I'm doing it as thoroughly and honest as I can, and I see who I am, then I see that all I've pretty much done my entire life has caused harm. And, amends is so big. And I'll say, inventory, like I said, gets the gears going, but amends, they changed me more than anything. They changed me, and they did something so internally deep to me. Like, I just wish everyone could have that experience. And I see a lot of girls miss out on that, and they go back out, and I may not ever see them again. Or I see some people, they jump straight to helping with others, and that's great. I love to see the willingness, but they don't make amends, and, it's like that falls short too, and that's my experience. I've also heard some speakers share, I know people that come in, they do 1 to 7, and then they're helping others, but their family still despises them and won't talk to them, and that's not the point here. To me, my experience, I go through the steps, and I have this experience, and I learn how to have this reliance and relationship with God, and I get entirely free. I don't ever want to be white-knuckling it or on shaky ground, because that's not the point either. I get entirely free to the point where it's like I literally am grateful I am an alcoholic, and then I got to learn to live a different way of life, and that is entire freedom. And what that freedom is to me is this internal peace. this is quiet. Just on the inside, it's quiet. This was so loud for so long. And in my experience, I feel if there ever is this version of a heaven and hell, and the book talks about this, hell to me is my ego. My ego will literally suffocate me to death. And if you don't poke holes in my stories with inventory, with those delusions, I'm going to stay asleep. Or I could be awake and fall back asleep. I need holes poked in my stories, because my ego, that to me is hell. That's internal suffering. Peace to me is when this is quiet, and I can hear, and I can actually love. If I get blocked quickly with those delusions, that's just that does not feel good to me today. So with amends, back to that. So I was about 2.5 years sober, and I had a bottom with my drinking, and I had a bottom in sobriety. And looking at, back then, it's like I wasn't doing anything to enlarge my spiritual growth. I blamed it on COVID, and I couldn't do Zoom meetings, and I can't help anybody, and, just all the excuses, right? And it's like, all right, Meredith, well, you're going to get a result of it. And I did. I was so broken at 2.5 years sober, I wanted to commit suicide. Like, dark thoughts, like, I cannot feel this way. And I knew a drink, nothing is going to fix this. But, like, I can't feel this way. And I'm begging God, like, please show me. And he's like, well, you can start going to a meeting. And it just took off from there. I went to, like, one meeting, and I started getting involved in commitments. And then I started meeting new girls. And, like, I did that for a good, probably, like, 8-9 months. And even then, it's like, okay, like, I'm starting to feel agitated with sponsees. Like, I'm just feeling, like, not so, like, I don't know, like, I should be lit up. But I feel drained. And, good thing, like, I'm practicing, listening to God, my step 11. Now, my grant sponsor, Paula, she started this Wednesday night meditation meeting. And I had this, like, notion, because, Meredith has a lot of ideas and opinions, and good thing I learned to keep an open mind, that, like, meditation is just, like, 10 minutes of the day. You, like, do this quiet or guided meditation. And what I learned from this, like, meditation meeting we're doing on Wednesday nights is, like, meditation or step 11, that is literally throughout my entire day. Pausing when agitated or doubtful. I feel like that's the real discipline as a human, and I'll get more to step 11, but when I, like, started learning, like, what step 11 was and, like, how to practice that and actually listen to God and not my ego, because my ego would be like, go sponsor all these women, like, you're being of service, and I'm running around like a crazy person. But my ego's like, yeah, but you're being of service, like, you're being a hero, and I'm like, yeah, like, and who's sponsoring who? And it's just like, it's sick. And I don't realize it until I start feeling uncomfortable. And I was like, all right, well, I know I start slowly realizing, like, okay, like, where am I missing out? Because today I keep my program super simple. And it's like, and it's pretty simple in the book. It's like, clean house and help others. Well, to me, making amends is helping others because they're God's kids that I have hurt. So it's like I'm keeping up with inventory and doing all the in-betweens, and it's like there's something missing. And it's like God's, like, slowly starts showing me. And how he showed me was, like, I think it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm at this red light, and I look over, and I see an old manager of mine, like, from years ago. And I was like, ugh. And right away, my mind, my ego is just like, that guy. And then right away, it's like, God's like, you owe him an amends. You were the worst employee to this guy. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I went home, and it's like, oh my gosh, I just went on this huge binge of amends. Like, I made a whole list. So that manager, I went to him, and I like to share on this amends because this was, like, the first one where it's like, oh my gosh, like, I have been missing out. It was a bar I used to work at, and so I, like, pull up, like, I called in earlier that day to find out when he'd be there, and the employee's like, he'll be there about this time, and I was like, all right, cool. And I remember, like, I went to my Tuesday night meeting, and I'm sitting outside this bar. Oh my gosh, talk about fear. And the funny thing is, I wouldn't have amends to make if I didn't do the harm. But I'm sitting out there, and it's like, there's some fear there. I got to, like, set aside my pride and my ego, and that's hard to do. And I'm, like, sitting there, like, literally shaking. I haven't felt fear like this, like, in a long time. And I, like, called Steven. He was just, like, simply, like, go in there. I'm like, I can't do that. And I, like, went to the ATM. I pulled out, like, all this cash, and I'm just, like, I just said a simple prayer to God. I was like, please give me the strength to go in and do this. And as soon as I walked through that door, man, that was another spiritual experience. Just that feeling God gave me. It was just like, all I can say is calm and confident. And I walked up to him, and it was just like such a cool, calm conversation. And I just asked if he had a moment of his time, and we went out back. And we just had, like, normal conversation. And he's like, so what brings you by? And I told him, like, I'm not that person that's like, all right, well, I was like an alcoholic, and now I'm like in a 12-step fellowship. Like, I don't go into all that. I was just like, well, I was like, when I worked here, I was a dramatic, disrespectful employee. I was like, I caused a lot of drama and chaos. I was like, I stole money. I was like, and there's no excuse for that. What can I do to make it right? And he just looked baffled. And I was like, I put out the cash I had in my pocket, and he was like, no, I don't want your money. And I kind of missed a little story. The first year of my sobriety, it was rough, just with, like, life happening. The first thing that happened was New Year's Eve. My dad, he collapsed. The sac around his heart filled with blood, and he had to have emergency heart surgery. And this manager had the same thing happen to him. And it's just like crazy how like little things like that work. Like I'm just relating with him with that with my dad, and I'm like, I'm glad you're okay. And he was just like, I'm glad to see you're doing good, you know, like that was just pretty much his response. And I'm like trying to shove this money on him, and he's like, I don't want it. And I was like, okay. But it was just a great conversation. And just looking another human in the eyes and like saying what I did to cause harm to them, that I don't know how to describe it other than like you just feel God. You just feel like this powerfulness, because it's like, man, like talk about having to have the confidence to look someone in the eye and say things you did. And I'll go into some other amends where it's like, man, like it's crazy that I get to do that today. And the thing is, after I walked out of there, and it's funny, I saw like old regulars that I used to serve, and they're like, hey, come get a drink. I'm like, good to see you. And I like walked out. But I walked out of there like literally floating. And I was like, this is what I've been missing. My spirit was lit on fire more than anything. And I don't realize that I'm still blocked, and I still have blockage in me until I make that amends, and I'm just another notch freer. So I was like, all right, I was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to make so many amends. And it's funny because I was like thinking of all the humans I owe amends to, but I was like, I stole from a lot of stores. And when I mean I stole from a lot of stores, probably like 50 stores I stole from. And I'm like, but they're like corporate franchise businesses. I don't really owe them anything. And, but it's like, all right, I'm grateful for everything I experienced because, it just teaches me. And so I'm trying to think of the next amends. So when I made amends to that manager, there was a girl there that we split tip money, so I'd stolen money from her. She caught me the night we did it, was calling me out for it. I caught her like every name in the book. Ugh. Anyway, I got her number, and I was able to make amends with her too. And then I'm just trying to think. I think the record I made so far was like 4 in one day. So I had a childhood friend. Well, I guess she was like my high school best friend, Jackie. And she was engaged to a guy who lived in the neighborhood I grew up in. And I definitely owe her amends. And I always drove by her house, like just hoping I'd catch her. And one day she wasn't home, like because I would go to my dad's house and I'd leave and I never saw her. And I pulled the neighborhood and I'm driving down the road and she drove by. And I was like, all right, I'm going to bust a U-turn and I'm going to go back. I followed her home. She's kind of creepy, but it's okay. It worked out. So like I pull up behind her and she gets out and her reaction, like it was just awesome. She was just like, Meredith? She's like, you look so great. And I was like, yeah, I literally looked like I lived in a gutter a few years prior and last time she saw me. And I just, I was like, pretty much just to sum it up, I went in some details, but I was just like, I wasn't a good friend to you for many years. I used you, I was disrespectful to you. And I always say kind of the same thing, like there's no excuse for it. There really isn't. I can't blame it on, well, I was doing this, so it's like, no, like some of the harm I caused, like no one wants to hear an excuse. Like I already did the harm, just own up to it. And that's just my experience with these amends, is like when I can own up to this harm I did. Anyway, got to make amends to her. Then like a week later, she's like, it's my birthday. My parents want you to come to the birthday dinner. Definitely owed her parents an amends because I knew the type of friend I was. I made amends to them. And then the restaurant I went to, I had worked at before, and there's a lady there that I really owed an amends to. Like I said some really disrespectful stuff to her, to say the least. And she like grew up with my mom. And man, her response to when I made amends was like, it was just like, it really hit in my soul. But like, she just was like so grateful and just thanking me. She goes, it takes a real woman to do what you just did. And I was just like, I'm so glad I got to make that amends. And keep on moving on. I'm trying to think of some other ones I made. There's a funny one I did kind of recently. I had a friend, Andrea. And it's probably been like 6 years since I seen her, but like I don't have social media. I haven't had it in like 4.5, 5 years. But I was able to Google her name. I was like, all right, her address looks about the same. I drove by because I'm that creep. And I was like, her car looks the same. And I was like, I'm going to wait till it's really dark out at night. And I'm going to leave her a letter in her mailbox. So like I wrote her this letter, and I just like pretty much said like, I'm not sure if Andrea still lives here, but if you're open for coffee or something, like I would love to chat with you. And I left like my number, and I pull up to her house. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and I was like, all right, cool. Like I just pull up a little past the house, and I get out of my car, and like mind you, I work from home, so I don't always get out of the house till later. But I had like sweats on, like a huge T-shirt, like hair is a mess. And I walk up to her house and floodlights come on, like literally lit up the street. And I was like, ugh. And it gets worse. So and the house isn't like, but so big. So her whole yard's lit up. And then I'm walking up to her front door, and there's a Ring camera. And this thing definitely works. It's like all lit up and all this stuff. And I was like, ah. And the mailbox is right by the front door. So I'm like trying to fit this little envelope in the mailbox. I'm like smacking it, and I'm like looking in the ring camera. I'm like, she probably thinks I'm still the same person, but I swear I'm not. I swear I'm sober. Anyway, I put in the envelope, and I haven't heard from her, and that was probably like 3 months ago, but it's okay. You know, I made the first attempt, and God will have that work out. And I've reached out for some other amends. I haven't heard back from people, and that's okay. You know, I'm always willing, and I just, you know, give that to God. I've made some big initiatives. And coming back to those stores it's not everyone's experience, but it's definitely mine. Like, I stole from a lot of places, and I just want to share on this because it's where I'm at today and what I've done recently in the past few weeks. I started a new job, and you know, it's pretty cool how the big book says if you put certain things on the, you know, on the track first, like the job and all that stuff, it'll fail you, and that's what I did. That's why at 2.5 years sober, when I had the car and the career and I got Invisalign braces and I'm buying all this stuff, you know, it fell short because the big book makes it pretty black and white. If you don't enlarge your spiritual growth as a real alcoholic, my natural default is drugs and alcohol. And not even before I get to the drink, like how I feel, it's like, I don't want this. Like, I do not like how this feels. And it's pretty cool. Like, I feel like in my experience, I've gotten spiritually sensitive where it's like any like thought or act that I do, like I feel it. And I try not to practice saying right or wrong, good or bad. It's like spiritual or non-spiritual. Is it spiritual for me or is it non-spiritual? And that's the discipline of my step 11. It's like, all right, God, like, and that is such a discipline. Before you think or like act, like just asking God, like, you know, is this of you or not of you? And I'll get results if my ego wants to do it or, you know, it's of God. And I like how the program is pretty open to just higher power of your, you know, whatever that looks like for you. I've heard people say nature. I've heard people say like deceased loved ones. I just say God because that's what works for me. That's what's powerful for me. And I'm grateful I've gone through the, you know, just with the steps in waking up. I just learned that God is love and he's not judging me. He just loves me and he forgives me and he wants me to be of service to his kids. And that is special with, you know, especially with amends. So before I wrap up on amends, I started a new job, and there was like one day in between where I was off between my old job and my new job, and I was like, I love that I can say this today to myself. I'm like, what could I do today to spiritually grow? Like really, like something, you know, so profound. And I was like, all right, well, my dad lives with my grandpa now because he's just older, so he has to like take care of him, and that's all the way down in Virginia. And so I get his mail for him. And there's a Walmart right by his house, and I actually got caught stealing here in high school, went to court, they didn't show up, it got dropped. And I've stolen from there other times too. But I was like, all right, let me go make amends to Walmart. So we had my dad's mail, and I always say the same prayer, God, please give me the strength, and please help me make this amends of you, your will, not my ego. So I've done that before. And I just walked in there, and, you know, he never fails, you know. He just gives me that confidence. And I asked for one manager, and I explained to her why I'm there. And first of all, I always ask for their time because it's like, you know, they're busy. And it's like, I just come in here like, hey, I'm here to make amends. Like, come on. And she's like, well, we're all silly, and, you know, we do stupid stuff. And I'm like, okay, but do you drink the way I drink over it? And she got a manager that was like in charge of like people that steal. And this manager, like, she comes up to me and I'm just like, I go into my usual spiel, like, hey, I stole here in 2009. I was like, I mean, like other times too. And the look in her eye was literally just like, she was just blown away. And I was like, I went in, like, it was disrespectful, wrong of me. Like, I'm sorry, it took me this long to do this. And I wrote down like my name and like my number and everything. And she's just like, no one comes in here and does this, like, ever. And mind you, this happened like 12 years ago. And I was just like, yeah. I was like, and it was wrong of me. And I just kept saying, like, and I'm sorry it took me this long to come and do this. And I was literally about to cry because it's like all you feel is God in that moment. And me, like, just like I talked about that power, because it's like I'm looking this human in the eyes, admitting that I stole. And she's like, well, if I don't find anything in the system, like, I mean, that's pretty much like it. But I walked out in there, I just sat in my car and I was just, you know, crying because I was like, thank you, God. Thank you for that opportunity that I got to clear up something that I did. And then I went to Target, and I went to Walgreens the other night. I had to pick up an order, and I always see an opportunity and I always seize it. I'm like, well, I have an order to pick up and I don't come to Walgreens often. And there wasn't like a big manager on site, but it was a shift lead. And I felt again, almost like just tears, and like this human looking him in the eyes, and like, it's like just admitting something that's so like guilty, you know? It's like, I was like, I used to steal from here. It was about 5-6 years ago. I was like, I used to steal from here like a lot. I was like, and that was very wrong of me. And I was like, and I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. And I said the same thing to Walmart, like any amount, payment plan, I don't care. Like I reiterate how willing I am. And just the kindness in this man's eyes and the way he said, thank you. He's like, thank you for doing this. He goes, I'll take your name and number and give it to like this higher up manager, but kind of same thing. Like you don't hear anything, it is what it is. But it's just going in there, you know, just the fact I'm asking for a manager and to speak to them. You know, that's just where I'm at right now, and I have a whole list on my phone. But those amends, like I don't realize, and a lot of the girls that take through the work, and I have friends that are like 7 years sober, and like they're like falling apart, and it's like, yep, I got to work with women more. I'm like, okay, what about amends? Let's look there, because I did the same thing. Because I don't realize that when I start working with others, and that's all I'm doing, I don't realize that like subconsciously I'm relying on these humans to keep me sane and sober. And I don't realize that. And it's like not fair to the sponsees. I start getting agitated and like all the above. And it's just like the more I'm cleaning up on my inside, which is inventory and clearing up the amends with the guilt and the shame that I have, I am now lit up for my step 12. I am lit up to help other girls. And how can I help someone else when I'm not doing this? Oh yeah, you got to make amends and then moving on. Like no, like, and I'll tell you this. I have a girl I'm taking through the work right now. I went over her house to do step work. She had a baby that was born like going through withdrawal and all that. So her family there's a lot of animosity in her house, like a lot of turmoil. And I go over there to do step work, and it's just like we're sitting out on the porch in a little corner. It's just like you can sense the tension in this home. And we just met up a few times, and like, you know, I'm going through this really big binge of amends right now, and I'm just like reiterating it. And the thing is, like, I love how the book talks about this too, like language of the heart. Like I am speaking my experience. Like I share like how I drank, how I used other forms of alcohol, and then I talk about my experience. And that's what inspires someone. If someone's a non-alcoholic, how can you relate with me? You can't speak the language of the heart. You can't talk necessarily about rehab and all that stuff. So anyway, I heard about amends with this girl, and she went and made amends to her entire family and just like kind of went on her own bend. The next time I went over that house, we're sitting in the living room. It's the little things. We're sitting in the living room. Her dad's like watching her baby in the kitchen. And it's like, and they're all like nice to each other. And it's like, you can just sense the healing and the love. And the whole point of going through the steps is so I can heal and I can learn to let go of all my ideas and opinions in my past. And I am so blocked when I come in here, and it's very easy for my brain to close up too. You know, that ego will just really take over, and it's like, I know how to tell it to shut up today because I do not like that feeling. And that's just step 11 for me. You know, in the morning, I say my own version of a third step prayer. I say, God, I surrender my day to you. Please show me what you need of me. And it's up to me to follow up with that and actually listen to him. Because if I don't, I'll do things egotistically and not altruistically. And that means it's not coming from my heart. It's literally coming from my ego. Like, I'm going to take control of my day, and I'm going to go do this and that, and that's of God. Like, it's like me telling God, like, I'm going to do this, and you're going to approve of it. And it's like, I'll always get results of that. And I'm just grateful for every experience I've gone through, whether it's like something that makes you feel good on the inside or not, because that's how I learn. There's no cap to this. I can only learn from experience. I love talking with other girls too, who are like, just like we're all growing together. I don't like sitting in morbid reflection from the past. Literally what happens today, I don't want it to reflect into my next day. It's always constantly growing, constantly changing. And, because of me just keeping like such a simple program, like I said, inventory and amends, when I'm doing those two big things, this is quiet and I can hear God and I can have love for myself, which I have today. I did not have that coming in here. Like literally just like, my experience was I had no self-respect or self-love. And because I don't have that in here, I can't love anyone else. And I get very unblocked with these two big things. And then my step 11 changes, because it's like, this is getting more quiet so I can hear God more, and I'm practicing hearing God more. And then I'm lit up to help his kids. And I'm very grateful I get to help other women today, because that's my primary purpose. I come in here, I learn how to be of service in here, and it's bled out in my entire life. I can be a sister today, a daughter today, an employee. Like, my life is recreated on another level. And that's why I'm grateful, because before even picking up that drink or drug, I didn't really have a life. And the way I felt on the inside was always empty and miserable, and there was any type of love. And because I've had that experience to learn how to have a relationship with God, like, I just have internal love. And now I can love, God's kids. And I thank him at night that I can see life, respect life, and live life, and see life for what it is. Because in the bigger picture, I'm not here for a long time. That's why I love the saying, what did I do to pack into the stream of life? And some days I fall short. I'm human, and I fall short, but I learn from my mistakes and I move forward. Packing into the stream of life, that's what Bill and Bob did. They were like packed in the stream of life, so someone like me could be recovered. I'm not cured, but I recover from that hopeless state of mind and body. And this program is literally, you hear that all the time, like willingness. If I am not willing, that's it. Either do this or you don't. No one's going to make you do this. We're all adults here, and it's what you do behind closed doors. I practice this to the best of my ability, because I do fall short. You can ask Stephen. To the best of my ability, because I want to live this way. In the beginning, it was I need to live this way, but today it's like I want to live this way, and I'm grateful for this program. In my life today, it looks, materialistic things don't matter, but I'm grateful I have a beautiful home, I have a car, I have my license, I have a job, I have pets, I'm planning a wedding right now, I'm engaged. And I got emotional in a meditation the other day, because I was like, I'm getting a wedding dress. I thought I was going to die. When it talks about the alcoholic gates of doom, I thought I was going to die this way. I accepted it and I believed it. And I just thought there was no way out of this. And it's all because I was willing, and God really, his plan for me was to, get free. I'm entirely free today, and that's all because of these, just this program. And I'm very grateful, for everybody that comes to meetings and just all the girls I get to help. And, I feel so connected today. I was very disconnected for a very long time. And today I feel connected to God's kids and, just anything. It might sound crazy, but like plants and animals, because I can walk outside today and I look up and I just feel it. I can't describe it. It's not even so much physical. It's like in my heart and my soul, I can feel connected. And that's all because I was just willing to go through these, simple steps and remain willing to, because I enjoy and love living this way. But that's all I got. Thanks for having me share.
Thank you very much, Meredith. Let's thank her one more time for coming in. My name's Ron. I'm an alcoholic, if you said that first, right? We used to go out afterwards, after the meeting, over to Perkins. It was an after the meeting kind of meeting. It's a lot of fun, and we're thinking about putting together like a potluck after this meeting. So if you're interested in that, stay afterwards and talk to us. It's a good way to get fellowship, to get hooked in, because our group is all inclusive and never exclusive. Everybody's invited and come along this journey, and we come here just to be of service, and that's the 12th step in its highest level, to come to a meeting for that sole purpose. And if you're interested in staying afterwards, see us after that. It's customary for us to form a line. Take some time to thank our speakers formally. They drive out here at their time and their own time and expense to share a message of hope and recovery, and it means a lot to them to just come up and just be personal. They take 2 minutes out of your day to do that. So I guess you'll wait up here, Miss Meredith, and we'll do that. What else we got to do? Thank everybody. Thank the people in the kitchen. If anybody was looking for a kitchen detail, yeah, tireless. I guess I can tell you now there's a slow-acting poison in the coffee. It takes 12 hours. Anyway, we got a nice way of closing. Let's circle up. Let's hold some hands. Let's keep the COVID alive. And beautiful. Let's take a moment of silence. Do with it whatever you care to do with it. And if you care to join us, we'll end with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Keep coming back. It works. You're working. You're working.